Game preview for Gonzaga Nation SI here. We've got Gonzaga obviously in their seventh Sweet 16 where they take on an opponent from the SEC, the Arkansas Razorbacks, 27-8 on the season, 13-5 in a really good SEC conference. And they're coming in playing extremely well. They lost 5 of 6 games in December and January. And since then, they've only had 3 losses. Those 3 losses against one common opponent that Gonzaga shares, and that would be Alabama. It was a 67-68 loss in Tuscaloosa. And that's a common thread with this Arkansas team is they were great at home, undefeated actually at Bud Walton Arena, struggled a little bit on the road, even though they were still, top tier of the SEC in 27-8 on the season. The other losses that they had towards the end of the season would be at Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee is a really good basketball team, a 3 seed that was knocked off by Michigan to advance to the Sweet 16, but they lost at Tennessee 74-78. And then they also lost to Texas A&M during their incredible streak and run through the SEC tournament before they lost in the championship game of the SEC tournament, and Buzz Williams went nuclear on not making the NCAA tournament. They're trying to make the most of it by making a run in the NIT. But Arkansas is a really good basketball team. They remind me a little bit of Memphis, who Gonzaga just beat. And the reason I say that is just because of the size that they have at the wings. They've got really good size at the wings, and not just size, but length, bulk, physical attributes that has given Gonzaga some problems in the past. Although I think this team doesn't worry about that physicalness and that size on the perimeter as much as Gonzaga teams in the past, because Gonzaga has great size. Andrew Nemhart at about 6'4" for a point guard, he's big. You look at Rajier Bolton. He's about 6'3" as a combo guard. And then Julian Strother has great size at the wing. And then they come in, Gonzaga, with Hunter Salas on the wing, who's got good size. Anton Watson a little bit at the 3, a little bit at the 4. Obviously a athlete with good size. And then Nolan Hickman, backup point guard, freshman, about 6'2", but he's got tremendous quickness and anticipation that kind of really allows physical guards to not have an impact on him as much as maybe the potential could be. So I think this is going to be a tremendous basketball game. We'll quickly look at the roster and how Arkansas wants to play. They want to get up and down. I mean, they average in the upper 80s points, so they're not going to slow it down by any stretch. They will slow it down in the second half when it's quote winning time, and they will run the same play over and over again with some wrinkles on the weak side or a different action to get into the main action. And they do this because Eric Musselman, their coach, who's doing a tremendous job, has such a great NBA background. His dad coached in the NBA for years. Eric Musselman actually has a WCC tie. Went to University of San Diego before kind of kickstarting his coaching career in the professional ranks, but he has coached in the CBA, he's coached in the D League, he has coached in the NBA as an assistant, he's been a head coach in the NBA for the Golden State Warriors, so this is a return home game for him by being in the Bay. He's been a head coach with the Sacramento Kings. He wanted to go back to college and learn that game, and he's done a tremendous job apprenticing under Herb Sendek and Johnny Jones, both at Arizona State as well as LSU. Got his first opportunity at Nevada, turned that program around in no time, and then he is now in Arkansas. But when you look at how he's built teams, because of his past experience with minor league professional basketball as well as the NBA, he's not afraid of mixing and matching a roster on the fly and putting it together. And I think that's one thing that really helped him turn around Nevada. He was active in the transfer portal. He got the right transfers, and then he put those pieces together really well. He had the Martin brothers, who transferred in from NC State and then had a great run in Nevada. Jordan Caroline had a great run for him at Nevada. He had a number of other transfers that really maybe didn't fit as well as they would have liked in their first stop. They found a great home in Nevada under Eric Musselman because a couple things that he does well is he develops players, he defines roles, and then he gets those guys to buy into those roles so that the team can succeed. They typically aren't going to play more than 8 guys, and he's going to ride his guys heavy minutes once he kind of figures out the rotation that he likes. But with that being said, he's got a talented roster this year. 4 players average in double figures, led by J.D. Note, who scores at about 18 and a half points per game. He's also nearly 5 rebounds a game, almost 4 assists, around the 2 steal per game mark. But he can be a wild card. He can get it going, but he can also struggle shooting it. About 40% from the field on the year, only around 30% from 3. But he puts a ton of foul pressure on the defense. He attempts over 5 free throws a game, which for a guard is pretty darn good. So he is going to be a handful. It'll be interesting to see who gets that assignment for Gonzaga. Is it Julian Strother? Is it Rajir Bolton? We'll see what that one looks like. But push comes to shove, end of game situations, the ball's going to be in his hands, and I would expect and I would anticipate it to be a side pick and roll because that's what he ran a lot down the stretch of close games with Nevada. That's a staple in the NBA, and with his NBA background, he'll find something and keep going to it until the defense stops. He'll find a mismatch that he feels is in favor of his team, and he'll keep going to that. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that part of the chess match between Eric Musselman and Mark Few. A couple other players that they have in double figures. Stanley Umudi, really active, 6'6", averages about 12 points a game, 5 rebounds. Had a really nice game in the second round in their win. So Gonzaga is going to have to keep an eye on him. Audius Tony, I believe I'm saying that right, a senior, another transfer. J.D. Note was a transfer. Umudi was a transfer. Coach Musselman does such a good job of blending those guys, but he averages nearly 11 a game. Big, strong, physical, active wing. And then your fourth scorer that's in double figures. I think he has a chance to pose a problem with his activity level for Gonzaga's interior. And I say that not saying he's going to dominate Gonzaga's interior, but Gonzaga's interior's got to be ready to play. You saw what Drew Timme, Chet Holmgren did against a great interior player in Memphis with Jalen Duren. But Jalen Williams, maybe not as big, maybe not as athletic and bouncy, but he's pretty dang good in his own right. 6'10" sophomore, averages close to a double-double, over 10 points, and then it's just a shade under 10 rebounds a game on the season. He's active, blocks a lot of shots, goes to the offensive glass, good in screen dive situations. So Gonzaga is going to have to do a good job on him. And then maybe the X factor to me is a guy that's started at times this year, has come off the bench at times this year. He really impressed me in last year's run for Arkansas in the NCAA tournament as a lefty from the state of Arkansas, and that would be Devontae Davis. Averages a little over 8 a game. He's had some games where he can really get it going and put the pressure on the defense. And then he's, as young players do sometimes, he's had some quiet games. But all in all, I think he could be the X factor in a positive way for Arkansas, if that's something that you're keeping an eye out for. Arkansas does have a couple of their bigs with great size, but they really don't play. They've got 7'3" junior Connor Vanover. Not sure if he's injured or not, but he hasn't played since January, so I wouldn't expect him to be active and involved in this game, but something to keep an eye on. Another player with size, so they're used to playing against size. So he's not as active, mobile, not as impactful defensively as Chet Holmgren. But the thing is they've played against that size, that length in practice. So I don't think Chet's length is going to be too big of a surprise for them. The other big really doesn't have much experience, a freshman. Lawson Blake, 6'10". He's only appeared in 5 games this year, including the final minute or so against New Mexico State in the NCAA tournament. I wouldn't expect to see him play, but at least something happens, foul trouble. They need another big to kind of really bang against Gonzaga. They've got some size to go to. But again, I look for this to be a tremendous game. It's primetime slot on Thursday, with the great CBS crew calling it. Jim Nance, you've got Grant Hill and Bill Raftery on the call. So that's always a tremendous game when Nance and Raftery in particular are part of the call. It's a big one. It's an important one. They're also there, I would imagine, because Duke is playing in the second game of the night against Texas Tech, and all eyes are going to be on Duke and Coach K because obviously the retirement at the end of the year, CBS and the NCAA tournament is going to be following that story closely. I would look for Duke to win that game and set up a possible rematch from the game in November back in Las Vegas where Duke beat Gonzaga. They didn't beat them handily, but they were in control most of that game because they jumped out on Gonzaga early. So Gonzaga fans have that to look forward to, but they can't overlook a really good Arkansas basketball team. As I mentioned, 27-8 on the season, 13-5 in a really good SEC conference, and they play their best basketball, as I mentioned, down the stretch. After that December-January blip where they went lost 5 of 6, they have been as good as anybody in the SEC. So looking forward to watching the game. Like, subscribe, follow, and review us for Gonzaga Nation SI on all platforms.